Hi everybody, Carol Garrison here with Carol's Creative Escape. I apologize, I'm a few minutes late tonight. I kind of got involved in making my card tonight and lost track of time, so I apologize for being late. It is time for another Make It Monday. It is Tuesday, November 4th, and hope everybody had a great week. We kind of had a busy week working stuff, and then again, because we're in the season of leaves, John got to spend a good chunk of Saturday removing leaves from our yard. I went out with my sisters and spent some time at my mom's place helping her clean up and get some fall decor out. So that was kind of nice. And then, hey Sue, thanks for joining in. And then yesterday had a friend in town and got to see the grandkids. So that was a lot of fun. And now we're just kind of heading in. I realized today on my way home from work, I'm like, man, it's really dark outside, and it didn't click in until I was almost all the way home that it had to do with the time change. I've been fortunate up until this year to have worked fairly close to home and had hours where I could get out of work earlier than what I do right now. And so I never really had to drive in that dark thing. So I'm quickly going to be joining the go to work in the dark and come home from work in the dark crew, at least for a little bit of time here. It just kind of surprised me. I don't know why. It shouldn't have, but it sure did. Again, I hope everybody had a great week. I am going to just jump right in to this card that I'm going to show you tonight. I had hoped to actually have 2 samples completed for you, and I am only going to have 1, but I do have 2 samples prepped, and so I'm probably just going to make 2 cards for you here tonight. So without wasting any further time, I'm going to try to set stuff up so that I'm not completely having you witness my messy work zone here, because it is rather messy. Let me get things set up for you. I'm going to flip my camera over and get it into the other stand, so I apologize in advance for any shaking that is occurring. And I also need to make sure, yay, there I am on my iPad, so I'm live in the right place too. Sometimes that's an accomplishment in and of itself. Okay, so, wow, look, at first time I got it straight. I'm not touching it because you know what happens when I start to do that. So the card that I want to share with you tonight is called the Corner Pocket card. And I think I've done variations of this in the past. I decided to make one card that I could show you real quick here that's horizontal or more landscape in orientation. And this is just a single layer for the backing. And then this card pulls out. And I've just got Merry Christmas, so you can write a quick note here. It's a great card to include with a Christmas letter because there's not a lot of room to write on the card. And if you do your triangles in the corner right, you can pretty much get this put in and centered, so it has a nice border too. The paper that is here is the Reindeer Days. That's a 12 by 12 designer series paper. I showed this to you in the past, but the colors that go with it are Early Espresso, Garden Green, Granny Apple Green, Pecan Pie, Pool Party, and Real Red. And so I've tried to incorporate some of those colors in the cards that I want to make for you today. So quick measurements. This Early Espresso layer is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's the size of a regular card. On this one, the designer series paper is 4 by 5 1/4. And then these 2 layers, there's 2 layers here. Early Espresso is a 3 1/2 by 3 1/2 square that I've just cut on the diagonal. And then this Real Red is a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 inch square that again I've cut on the diagonal. Both of these layers I ran through the Snow 3D embossing folder just to add a little texture to it. You could actually make this layer designer series paper if you wanted to do that too. And then we've just got that cute little reindeer that kind of sticks out there to add some decoration. You could add some bling, some ribbon, whatever you want. Again, I try to mail my cards without adding a lot of bulk. And so I didn't want to put a whole lot more on this because I figured if I add my Christmas card, letter, or a family photo, that it's going to get too thick, and I don't want to have to worry about that. So I am deliberately leaving mine bling free. I want to show you kind of a stepped up version of this card. And it's going to look like I have a lot of paper here, and I do because I've decided to make lots of layers on this one. So don't be surprised by that. I will hand deliver this. I have a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 garden green, another layer of real red that is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then I have this really bright designer series paper. Again, this is part of the same Reindeer Days designer series paper. So this layer measures, let's see, 4 by 5 1/4. And then for my little pocket card, I again am repeating these same layers. So I've got 4 by 3, 3 and, nope, I'm sorry, this is 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. This layer is 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. And then the designer series paper that I'm using, and that's part of the reason why I've done the layers, is I want to create some difference between this background and this paper. So this is 3 1/4 by nope, this, all right, wait. 4 1/4 by 3 1/4 is the garden green. 4 1/8 by 3 1/8 is the real red, which makes this 3 by 4 on the designer series paper. And then again, I am repeating that with my triangle. So that corner one, if you remember, is 3 1/2 by 3 1/2, cut along the diagonal. This is 3 3/8 by 3 3/8 square, I guess it would be, cut along the diagonal. And then I've again taken my designer series paper, and this is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 cut on the diagonal. And then the piece of cardstock for the back is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I've actually already stamped my sentiments. I'm wishing you, and that's going to be on the inside, a Merry Christmas. Oh, it looks like Knox is going to come join us for a little bit tonight. Hi, Knox. Yeah, how are you? Knox is the one that forces me to clean up my craft area pretty much every time I work on it, because if I don't, she will steal everything from me. You ready to get down now? Huh? Not quite. All right, let me just move her out of the way because she doesn't need to be up here. I know, you're sad. The sentiments I'm using are from the Greetings of the Season stamp set. So I've got the Wishing You, and then I've taken Merry and Christmas. So to assemble this card, it's really just working in layers. And so I am going to take, again, with this tape runner, remember, a light touch, that check mark at the end, and it should not stick. And just get a real thin border there and kind of mimic it on this opposite corner, and that should keep us fairly even. Don't eat my phone cord. And that would be why I have to pick everything up, because the cat will eat it. She's a chewer. And then I'm just going to repeat with this layer. If you do have obvious direction of your designer paper, make sure when you're cutting it that you have everything going the correct direction. And then again, when you put it down, ooh, that is not good. When you put it down, again, make sure that you've got it going the right direction. Okay, that is better. All right, so that's my base layer. My triangle, I'm just going to repeat the process. And I found that when I was trying to get adhesive on my triangles, that it was very helpful for me to be able to go right off of my silicone mat, which of course I can't find right now, so I'm just going to grab the back of this because I want to be able to get right in that corner. And then when you're putting your adhesive on, you want to be right on the edge and not go too far in, because you do want your card to sit on it. Now for this layer, that is not going to matter because it's going on top of my garden green layer. And again here, we're just keeping a thin shadow of garden green showing through. And we'll add this layer that I really want to make sure I get into the corners, but I don't want to go up too high. And oops, and again, don't do what I just did. I don't want to go along this part because that's where the pocket is going to be made. Not a big deal. I'm just getting my adhesive off of there. All right. And I will grab this. And I know this is a very busy pattern, so you're kind of like, but just wait till I get this other piece in here. It'll be fine. And this, it's just a matter of creating my layers again. Remember, light touch, check mark, and you shouldn't have too many issues. So I'm gonna do those narrow borders on either side. Like that. Repeat with this designer series paper, same color tones, but this time it's packages instead of tree lights. So it breaks the patterns up just a teeny bit. And remember that I have gone deliberately extra with my layers here. My first card and the last card that I make for you will only have the 2 layers. I'm going to add some adhesive to this. This is the back side of my pocket card. Oh. And that'll get slid right into here. And then again, to break this pattern up a little bit, I'm doing the Wishing You A. And I've just used a corner rounder to round out a square rectangle. And that is what this card looks like. So that's card number 2. Now we've got both a horizontal and a vertical pattern or layout for this card. This has an extra layer built into it on each section of it. This is just a single layer. Let me do one more card using this really cute paper. Again, it won't take very long, but the one thing to remember is when you're cutting your triangles, you've basically got 2 sets of cards going for you already. So it's easy to make multiple cards of this. And depending on how fancy you get, it's still a fairly quick card to make multiples of. Just depends on how many you have to make and how many you are going to be sending out versus mailing, I suppose. Just because it may be a little thicker or bulkier depending on what else you add into it. So for this card, I'm using some, what for me are non-traditional Christmas colors. I've got Early Espresso. This is 5.5 by 4.25 for the base. The next layer is Pool Party, and this is measuring 4 by 5.25. And again, I've used that Snowflake Softly Falling Snow 3D embossing folder. And then for my triangles, I've got 3.5-inch square that I cut in half, and then a 3.25-inch square, again using the Pool Party. And then I have a piece of 4.25 by 3.25 Early Espresso with my designer paper with these cute reindeer on it. I did play a little bit to make sure that I was getting at least partial faces, full heads, and not cutting them off halfway through. But it was easy enough to do. This is 3x4, and then I've got a piece of 3x4 basic white cardstock. And this time for my sentiments, I am going to be using this stamp set, Sentimental Wishes. I think that's one I shared with you last week. So somewhere, I actually already had one of my sentiments stamped out, but now I don't see it. Oh well, we'll figure it out. The first thing I'm going to do is stamp the inside of my card. I like to do that before I start assembling. Just gives everything a chance to dry. So for the inside of my card, I'm going to be putting in Have a Very Merry Christmas. And so we'll just stamp that. I really like how crisp and clean these stamps are. Again, it's that Sentimental Wishes, very traditional images, and I think even the font, old-fashioned. Because I do have a tendency to lay my projects down on finished stuff, I am going to clean off, or on inked stamps rather, I'm going to clean off my stamp and hope that as I keep going through here, I will find my sentiment. Because I don't see it on the floor. Huh. There it is. All right, so that's the other sentiment, wishing you joy and happiness. And that's going to go on the front of my card. And both of those were stamped in Pool Party. So again, I am going to take my tape runner and just build up my layers. Learn from me. When you're using the 3D embossing folders, the paper, the fibers tend to get broken down a little bit more because it's a deeper embossing thing. So when you're running your tape runner over, really, really light. Don't press down so hard because you can catch it and kind of rip off a layer. All right, so this one, instead of designer paper, I'm using my cardstock. And I've used an embossing folder just to create some depth on that. Let's go ahead and add this layer. And again, I'm not as concerned about leaving this one side open, but I do want to get it into the corners. Otherwise, they have a tendency to kind of pull up just a little bit. And so we'll go like that. And then for this final layer, I am going to go right up to the corner. But again, not along that edge, because that's where I want to build my pocket. And we'll just put this here. And again, this layer could just as easily have been designer series paper, but I have a little other plan. And so I chose to just keep the Pool Party in there. You might see a hint to what my other plan is sitting here on my table. Then I am going to center this, looking at opposite corners to keep them as even as possible. And we'll go like that. And then I've got my 3x4 basic white. And we'll create that layer on the back of my card. And that will end up going like this. So this is a pretty busy pattern. And so I thought, well, let's just see what it looks like with a solid border versus this being a busy pattern and this being a busy pattern. We'll kind of see what happens here. And then I've got my wishing you joy and happiness. And this corner is going to hang off just a teeny bit. And so when I put my adhesive on, I am only going to do, you know, leave that corner fairly adhesive free. And we will put that on there. And now we've got our second card done. Now, one other variation that you could do on this, if you wanted to, I'm not sure yet if this is what I want, so I'm not going to attach it, but I'll just give this to you as an example before I finish up the card, is you could also just take a piece of basic white cardstock if you thought you wanted to have more writing on here. Just take a piece of basic white cardstock and add it to the back of the card. You're going to be fine for mailing it. In fact, I'll get my scale out along with an envelope and we'll just see where things come in. Actually, you know what? Let's finish the card first because then we're measuring it with the full weight. I wanted to add this cute, I just fussy cut one of the reindeer out, and I wanted to add that to the front of the card. Just excuse me, I'm hopping around just a teeny bit on this one. I'm so excited to keep moving ahead. And so we're just going to put that reindeer right there. And that just helps continue the pattern. All right, so if we add that back piece plus an envelope to this card, let's see how much it weighs. 7 ounces. So this one is easily going to be mailed. This is the one I added all the layers to it. That still comes in at 8 ounces. So if I didn't add much more to that, I'd be able to do it. If I added a piece of cardstock to the back of it, that still is putting me at 9.9 ounces. I don't know that I could put a Christmas letter in on that one. And then again, this one without that back piece is 6 ounces. If I add the back piece to it, it comes in at 7 ounces. So it is one that you'd be easily able to mail if you wanted to do that. I just wouldn't put it up on dimensionals because that might start making it a little bit too bulky. So there you have it, my 3 corner pocket cards. I hope that you enjoyed this tonight. Maybe you'll give this layout a try. Basic measurements again for the card base is 5.5 by 4 1/4. Next layer is 4 by 5 1/4. The squares to make the triangles are 3.5 inch square and a 3 1/4 inch square, just cut on the diagonal. And then the card itself is 4 1/4 by 3 1/4, with this next layer being 3 by 4. And the white here is also 3 by 4. So see, that even looks cute when this card is taken out. The one thing somebody wouldn't be able to do is set this card up on a display. It would be one that would have to be clipped or just left in a basket of cards because it won't stand up on its own. Can't have everything, can we? So there you go. Here are your 3 pocket cards for the night. Thank you, everybody, for taking time to watch me. I appreciate it more than you'll know. And I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.